there booktube, it's Eleanor here, and today I'm doing a bit of a middle of the year catch up. We're going to be talking a little bit about the books that I've enjoyed so far this year, about the challenges I set myself and how I'm doing with my Goodreads goals. So let's get straight stuck in. So this year I set myself a target of 200 books to be read in the year, and so far I'm on 89 books, so I'm not quite hitting my target. I should be at around the halfway point now, so I'm about 11 books behind. However, it's the Let's Get Graphic readathon just gone, so by the time you watch this it's possible that I have caught up, because I always read loads of graphic novels and I allow myself to use them in my challenge. So 200 was really pushing myself. I think I managed 200 last year, but this year my reading has slowed down a little bit, so I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling fairly confident I can catch that up over the rest of the year. But we shall see. I'm not going to beat myself up if I don't make it. I'm not massively into following. I didn't even know what I was on. Like, I don't follow my Goodreads challenge. I set it at the beginning of the year and then I just sort of look at it every now and again. And if I'm honest, often I'm highlighted that I hit my challenge by someone liking it on the Goodreads group. So yeah, I am not too worried about that. And then I also set myself 2 bingo challenges. There was the fantasy bingo, which so far I'm a month or so in and I haven't read any, which is terrible, so I'm definitely going to try and rectify that in the next few months, to at least pick up some of them. And then on my diversity bingo, however, I'm doing much better, and I've hit 16 of the 36 books, 36 squares. So I am trying to complete that this year, and so I'm still hoping that that's going to be possible. So that's how many books? Another 14. Also, no, that just shows I'm rubbish at like maths. 20 books to read, which is doable. I think they're all books that I'm really interested in reading and picking up, and they fit into various shelf slam categories, so I'm hopeful that I can continue with that. So 16 books read for that. And if you want to find out more about the various books, I do talk about all the books I read in my weekly wrap-ups. So they've been talked about over the last few months. And then to talk about the books that I've enjoyed this year. Now, to me, it felt like I haven't been reading as many 5-star books. I feel like I've been much harsher on books this year, and if they haven't really given me that oomph, I've only given them 4 stars. Only, that's still really good, but I've given them 4 stars over 5. But when I was looking back through my books, I've actually given quite a few 5 stars this year, and it's really interesting how they've fallen, because actually this year I've given 3 graphic novels 5 stars, 3 non-fiction 5 stars, which is very unlike me. There's 4 YA books that I've given 5 stars, and that doesn't surprise me that that's the most 5 stars I've given, because YA's definitely been a genre that I've been reading more of this year. And 2 adult general fiction books I've given 5 stars. So I'll talk to you a little bit about them. Most of them I've talked about in my monthly wrap-ups, because if you watch my monthly wrap-ups, I talk about the 5-star reads at the end and give you a bit more detail about them. So I'm not going to go into great detail here. I'm just going to list them and tell you a little bit about them. So the graphic novels, there's Descender Volume 2. I read this as part of the Science Fiction and Fantasy Awards. It's definitely my pick for the graphic novel category. I'm really enjoying this. The artwork when I originally picked it up wasn't my type of artwork, and yet the story I find so compelling and so interesting, and it's set in a world where there's been this big sort of robotic, or these giant machine attacks, and we're sort of years later now and picking up the pieces and trying to work out what's caused it. It's got a bit of a Star Wars vibe to me in part. But yeah, and volume 2 left on a bit of a cliffhanger, so I'm quite excited to see where that one goes. And then the other 2 are more graphic memoirs, or one of them is at least, and that's Tomboy by Liz Prince. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed the artwork, I enjoyed hearing her story about what it's like growing up as a tomboy, and how people questioned her sexuality, and you know, she says there's nothing wrong with whatever sexuality you are, but I think it's annoying to people to be, you know, but just because of the way you dress, people assume that you are a particular sexuality, which I think is wrong. And so it was interesting to see her sort of growing up and how that worked. And then the other one was Raina Telgemeier's Ghosts. I really enjoyed this. This was about a young girl and her young sister who suffers from cystic fibrosis. They've moved to somewhere nearer the sea to sort of try and help her, and they've moved to this town where people believe in ghosts, and there's Cinco de Mayo, and it was just very magical and sweet and lovely, and a really, really engrossing graphic novel. So I really enjoyed that. So then the non-fiction books, there was Just Mercy, which was the story of a young lawyer and his looking into people on death row and why they're there and whether they should be there, and looking at race and how that plays a role, and looking at various different people's stories. I really enjoyed that one. I listened to that on audiobook and I thought that was a really good way to listen to it. The other one of the other non-fictions was The Soul of an Octopus, which I loved. It's about octopus or octopi. It's just telling you about these wonderful creatures. They're incredibly intelligent, incredibly social. It was just an amazing story and insight into looking into these wonderful creatures and all the things we don't know about them, because we instantly think of octopus, and well, I do. If I think of an octopus, I think of like squeamy legs and a bit like jelly-like and a bit ugh. And actually this sort of dispels those myths and those thoughts that you have about octopus, so I thought that was very good. And then the other one was Brain on Fire. That was by Susanna Cahalan, who suffered this sort of problem, this neurological problem that just came out of the blue. No one could work out what it was, it's just a really honest insight into what happened and how she overcame it, how they looked and diagnosed her, and I really enjoyed that one as well. Then the two general fiction books was A Boy Made of Blocks, which is written by the games editor of The Guardian, and he talks it's a fiction book, but he's discussing autism in it, and he has an autistic son, so he writes from experience, and he talks about the story is about a young family, a mother, a father and a son. The son has autism. At the start of the book, the mother and father have separated. The father doesn't know how to cope with the autism. They're struggling as a family to cope with their son and to find out how best to have their lives and work their lives, and it's about how he finds a bond with his son through the game Minecraft, and I just thought it was such a wonderful story. And then the other general fiction book was a more recent read, and that was Bone Meal for Roses. I loved this. This is a story of, we start when she's very young, of a young girl. Her mother is a crystal meth addict and she lives in squalor. She doesn't really know any better. She is massively neglected, and it comes to a head, and her grandfather turns up and takes her back with him and her grandmother, and we follow her life along from then on, and how she lives her life and her issues and the things that she psychologically can't forget, and the choices she makes because of that. It's really good. It's set in South Africa, which is something I've not read very many books of. I really enjoyed the landscape, and I just really enjoyed a book set somewhere different. In the YA category, I've got 2 science fiction and fantasy YAs and 2 general fiction. So the general fiction is Everything Beautiful Is Not Ruined. This is a more recent read. I really enjoyed this. And I thought it was going to be a 4-star read, and then when I finished the book and shut the page, I bawled my eyes out. It was like a really slow burner, and then it just whacked me just when I finished, and I found myself sobbing. It was a really good story. We're following a young girl. She's gone to this wilderness camp. It's a complete rigid wilderness camp. It's not what she was expecting. She's agreed to do this wilderness camp so that her mother will agree to let her go to a particular school that she wants to, and it's her way of showing she can be independent and fend for herself. There's a lot of family dynamics here. There's a lot of her relationship with her mother. I really enjoyed it. We flashed forward and backwards, and I thought it was a really interesting and heartfelt read. And then the other book that was a sort of a general fiction was The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. Most people have heard of this now, but this involves a young girl witnessing her friend being shot by a policeman when he was unarmed, and it's the aftermath of that. It's the racial tensions between the police and the people. It's about Black Lives Matter, and it was a really interesting read and definitely very eye-opening. And then the two sort of science fiction fantasy are Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I love Laini Taylor. She can do no wrong in my eyes in terms of her writing style. She really has the most rich and wonderful writing. She really draws you into the story. She writes in a way that these make-believe places feel real, and you can imagine that they are real places, and I think that's a really clever way of writing, and the story draws you in, and I can't wait for the next one in this series. The thought process, the mythology, the ideas behind this story were really great. It's about this city that they only know as Weep, which is sort of a hidden city. No one's been there for years. It used to have another name, but no one can remember what it's called. And we're following a man called Strange the Dreamer, or a young man called Strange the Dreamer. He's enlisted when a envoy from this place Weep comes along to collect the most sort of knowledgeable about different areas to come and help them rid their city of something, and we follow it from there. And I don't want to say too much about this one because it really is wonderful to read it and see it unfold before your eyes. And then the final one is Dreadnought. I really loved this. It turns the superhero idea on its head a little bit. At the start of it, Dreadnought, who's one of the sort of best superheroes in this particular town, falls to earth behind a shopping mall where a boy is painting his toenails. He knows that, or she knows that she is in the wrong body and that she should be a girl, and she doesn't see how she's going to deal with this. Her father will not let her be a girl. He's very biased and not very accepting, not very open. And then when Dreadnought lands next to her, she takes on his mantle, and it gives her the body she's always dreamed of, and she becomes a girl or a young woman. And we're following the aftermath of that, how it changes her relationships, how people perceive her, how she feels in the body of a woman, how she feels herself for the first time ever. And then there's also this wham bam fast-paced plot going on with superheroes and supervillains and you know, death-defying things, and I love it. And it's a series. The second one is coming out soon, I believe, so I'm really excited to carry on. So here is a big load of books that I've given 5 stars so far this year. I don't know, you know, yet which ones will make it onto my top of the year, but so far they've all been brilliant reads. I really do recommend all of them if you like the sound of them. And now I need to go and try and read more on my science fiction and fantasy bingo, get some more diversity bingo reads read, and carry on with Shelf Slam, which is going pretty good, and just build up the numbers of books a little bit and try and find myself some more 5-star reads. Anyway, I hope you're all having a good reading year so far, and I look forward to seeing your videos or hearing about it in the comments. Let me know any 5-star reads that you've read this year that you would recommend to me. I'm always looking for more to put on my wish list, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.